You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel.
And this leads me to the subject of sackings. If you must remove rival managers, there are of course two ways of doing this. The first is to use a junior manager. There are reasons for this. First, that as a senior manager, you have no wish to dirty your own hands, staying above the fray and animosity that such action will generate within the staff. And secondly, a rival manager that has become unpopular will always be easier to remove than a popular one. When dismissals are required, they should be done quickly and without hesitation. For such acts generate disquiet within the ranks, as many will perceive that they may be next to receive their cards. So such acts of power are often required only at the beginning to secure one's position, and after that, a manager with an eye on the future may even dare to be generous with subordinates, offering many promotions and supervisory positions. The pyramid structure within the staff is easy to create within the company management itself. It also ensures that for those who dislike the manager, there will be those who support him or her. A divided staff can be as useful as a divided management. Factions within the employees may centre on rising members of the staff or even a junior manager, but with the removal of such an individual, the followers will be leaderless, with yourself as the only remaining figure of authority with whom they can now trust with their future. Because only those that have longevity will generate loyalty. There's little point in throwing in one's lot with a manager who is newly promoted and yet to establish his position. So wise employees will look for the manager with the strongest history within the firm, as over time, those that have invested much in the company are rarely prepared to leave. It is those who have done their time, as it is said, that are likely to progress, and the ambitious employee may hope to be dragged up by the rising manager. Therefore, I reiterate that when it comes to dismissing rivals, do it quickly at the beginning, followed by acts of generosity. For even those among the staff who are appalled by your actions will soon forget them if they themselves are then promoted, and if they don't, promote others and isolate those that have cherished and cultivated this anger, leaving them embittered and frustrated and lonely. But from experience, you won't have to endure this for long, for people rarely throw their weight behind a lost cause, preferring to join the triumphant side and see where the new regime will take them. Ninth lesson, a misconception. It is better to be feared than admired. This is wrong and sloppy thinking. It's probably better to be thought a little of both. But remember that history has thrown up many whose power was based almost entirely on fear. Leaders of men that believed the delivery of the whip and the sword would be enough to gain power and then secure it have found this belief to be in error. For fear has one huge weakness as a source of influence and long-term survival. Fear, like love, can fade. And if to maintain that fear, the leader strikes out enough, he will eventually turn his strokes on those closest to him. Once this is realized, the collective penny will drop, and the subordinates will realize that if the leader is not brought down at some point, they will find themselves within the firing line. So fear, as I've said, has its uses, but can never be relied upon, as men and women will strike more through self-preservation of their careers than through bravery. Survival will always remain the final ideology. Therefore, I say, to be admired for what one has achieved and may achieve in the future is a better course for the rising manager to follow. That is a banner that many more will seek to march behind. For the world is truly divided between the doers and the followers. Overall, unless forced, many would rather follow than lead. So the dedicated team committed to the manager will sustain you in your course as others dine out on their association of being in your company. Because the success of your career will give the underling's career a rosy glow. And through that, they will inform many others of your triumphs without you having to blow your own trumpet. 10th thing to be wary of. All paperwork is a trap, insofar as it is either a trap set by the manager or a trap by a higher manager. Once something is committed to paper, any individual that sees it will believe it, unless they are given reasons to disbelieve it. Therefore, I advise that the rising manager be careful in your writing. Make signatures fluent but unclear, and leave all delivery notes with unchecked printed above. For paper is a trail that can only lead back to you. So arrange for subordinates to put their names to anything that might at some point become a problem, because paperwork is only ever an attempt by those above to pass down liability onto others. You must also allow that burden to descend onto the shoulders of others. Permits, audits, and inspections are all the same and are only ever an attempt to give the representation of work. White paper is never what the job entails, and it is only ever the show of having done something. The truth is that printed sheets should only ever be filled in after the successful completion of the task, and on no account should they ever be filled in beforehand. Because if the task was unsuccessful, this way there shall never be a record of it, and the manager's reputation shall remain spotless. But if a record of mistakes is kept, they can only serve to do the manager harm and damage his standing within the company. In this way, a wise manager will recall his successes and ignore his own failures, leaving such failures as they are with the signature of lesser men all over them and not his. 11th point, the strength of the business and therefore the influence of the manager. I have tonight already spoken about the dangers of contractors, subcontractors, and those brought in to perform individual tasks, but I wish to emphasize the effect on any company that is in effect being run and maintained by other firms. The fashion for outsourcing, downsizes, and offshoring has made almost all companies that follow it weak. All managements will find it difficult to run any operation in which the decisions are made elsewhere. When the repairs, maintenance and deliveries are at the behest of others, the manager's position is reduced simply because he's not in charge of events. I consider this a deliberate act by hiring managers to weaken the influence of those below. All too often, those above will decide schedules, payments and visits that the duty manager is unaware of until such representatives from other companies are standing at the reception demanding to be let in, taking up the manager's, even the employees' time over things that no one previously knew much about. Therefore, I urge all managers who wish to secure their own position within any firm to bring back to his control all of the various duties required to run the business. Contractors and delivery men will never respect the managers, as they ultimately do not answer to him, and he cannot dismiss them. He will become powerless in their eyes and be treated as a nuisance. Your own higher management will see you no better, because without the power to say no, what will saying yes come to mean? If the manager is forever waiting for the latest delivery man or woman, the latest contractor or even subcontractor, then not only is the manager a small boat on high seas, trying desperately to please all at the same time, but also, like the small vessel, he will be buffeted in the swell and will eventually sink beneath the waves. Also, the company's rules and regulations will be unenforceable, for too many will not feel bound by them, as they will at the end of the day answer to other masters. Any set of rules that are applicable only to certain individuals but not to others will always fail, because through that system they will become unworkable. And if that is the case, the manager will never be able to stamp his or her own authority. So, and I do not wish to labour this point, but it is one worth making, if the manager's influence is not absolute, then neither will be his power or position. When something goes wrong, as things do, the manager will find himself answering for the actions of those not under his authority. That can only ever lead to weak management. Ultimately, once you have risen to a higher position within the company, you should divide and share as much responsibility as possible, and so prohibit the advancement of any possible future managers from challenging you. And if to maintain your position the company must remain weak, then so be it. For the manager that does not use his power to secure his own position is a fool and is bound with time to lose both position and power. It is a human weakness, but understandable for all that even managers wish to be seen as good people. Not all can battle on all fronts all of the time, so choose your battles carefully, using one employee or rival manager as best suits you, and only defeating them once they have assisted you in a previous campaign. The wise manager shares what gifts he can, but only when it is prudent to do so. As an example of this, if there is an employee who is talented and successful and aids the position of the manager in some form, then I say bind him to you before he sees his future elsewhere. Because those that feel useful and important to you will feel as bound to you as those to whom you are able to promote. So use those that are on your side, especially if they see ways to improve the business that you can take to higher managers and improve your own standing. And those without useful ideas are also worth keeping, as they present no threat to you and may even insulate the manager if another tries to move against him or present a sacrificial lamb if one should be required. Therefore, in conclusion, the manager who is powerful enough to rely on himself and his own will always be more powerful and secure than one who is reliant on the actions of others. But the one who is a high manager would do well to keep those below him weak and divided. 12th point of wisdom. It is an old expression, but a true one. All businesses that do not expand will contract. So the wise manager must always be thinking of how to increase the business, and especially the side of the company over which he has influence. He should listen to his staff, for they will see things that even he will not. Although one idea may not be viable, a number of concepts combined might be. He should then present the combined idea as his idea and take the credit only later, telling certain members of staff how much higher managers were impressed, although making sure those above never realize where the original idea or concepts came from. But if the business is not expanding, then the ambitious manager will have to make a calculation. Is it better to remain in a company that is stagnating, but hope to rise to a position of suitable power to one day change the firm's direction, or leave and join, even at a junior level, a firm that is expanding and from which a brighter future may be established? It is my opinion that the ambitious company whose view is towards the horizon will always be the better choice. For even if such an enterprise should fail, one's own record and references will still enable you to gain a position in another firm at another time. A failure, especially at the start of one's career, is often a learning experience and rarely blights one's prospects. And there is something else that all managers of ability and courage come to realize, that no one in the history of business or trade has ever made a name for themselves by following the actions of others. Only those who attempt something new will ever establish their own name in their own right. It is sadly true that it is never the selling of one product, but the selling of the same product over and over that produces the long-term profits. But even those profits will never bring glory to a manager who is seen to simply keep things ticking over, no matter how much skill, talent, and ability is actually required to do it. For it's only the manager at the start that is ever remembered. So, I urge you all here tonight to remember that it's the foresight to attach yourself to a winning project from the start and not be seen as joining the party afterwards that is the key to establishing one's future success and reputation. Never be afraid of failure, as failure can always be traced back to those above. And once seen as reluctant to commit, you never will be fully trusted, as it will be seen that you do not trust your colleagues. Enough failures, given long enough, will finally lead you to a success.